I have to tell someone this, because I don't know how much longer I'm the one in control. It started a few weeks ago. I noticed my shadow. It wasn't quite matching my movements. At first, you think it's a trick of the light. You tell yourself you're just tired, but then you see it happen again and again, and you have to face the impossible truth. My shadow isn't mine anymore. Section 1. My life has always been, aggressively normal. You know the type. A 9-to-5 that pays the bills, but isn't going to be in any history books. A small apartment with beige walls. I keep telling myself I'll paint one day. Routine was my comfort, a predictable rhythm in a world that felt increasingly chaotic. Wake up, coffee, work, gym, dinner, sleep. Repeat. And my shadow was just there. A silent, dark companion I never gave a second thought to. It was as much a part of me as my own hand. The first time it happened, I was in my bathroom, just brushing my teeth. I leaned over to rinse, and when I straightened up, I caught my reflection. Behind me, on the wall, my shadow lagged. It was only for a split second, a visual hiccup. My real body was standing straight, but my shadow was still bent over the sink. I blinked, shook my head. Must be the fluorescent lights, I mumbled to myself. They always buzz and flicker in this old building. It was easy to write off. Our brains are wired to dismiss the impossible, right? To smooth over the cracks in reality so we can keep going. A few days later, it happened again. I was walking home from work. The late afternoon sun was casting those long, stretched-out figures on the pavement. I lifted a hand to shield my eyes from the glare, and my shadow didn't. For a solid second, the dark shape on the ground kept its arms down at its sides, a stark, black cutout of a man standing perfectly still while I was already moving. Then, with this fluid, unnatural ripple, it snapped back into place, mimicking me again. The sidewalk, and stared down at it. The sidewalk, and stared down at it. I raised my left arm. My shadow raised its left arm. I took a step. It followed. Everything was normal again. But the image of that disconnect, that moment of independence, was burned into my mind. I started watching it, all the time. I'd check out of the corner of my eye to see if it was keeping up. Every reflective surface, from a shop window to a car door, became a source of anxiety. My lifelong, reliable companion had turned into a source of creeping dread. Section 2. The night my denial completely shattered was a Tuesday. I was in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. City lights painted a dim, orange glow on the walls. I was lying on my side, facing the wall, completely still. And then I saw it. Projected on the wall in front of me, my shadow sat up. I was frozen, not sleep paralysis. I was wide awake, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I could feel the sheets on my skin, hear a distant siren wail. I was physically lying down, but the dark silhouette of my body just detached from the mattress, a featureless shape rising into a seated position. It sat there for what felt like an eternity before it slowly, deliberately, turned its head to look back at the wall where my real head was resting. I couldn't see a face, obviously. It was just a void, but I felt it looking at me. It felt like being watched by something ancient and patient. Then, just as slowly, it lay back down, melting back into my shape, becoming one with me again. I didn't move a muscle until the sun came up. After that night, it stopped being subtle. This wasn't a game of flickering lights anymore. My shadow had declared its independence. It would twitch when I was still, its fingers stretching into long, sharp points before shrinking back to normal. Sometimes, while I was just sitting and reading, its head would turn to face the darkest corner of the room, like it was listening to something I couldn't hear. It was my double, but twisted, and it felt malevolent. A constant, low-grade fear started to settle over me, draining the color from my world. I tried to fight back. I'd spend hours in brightly lit rooms, thinking maybe I could blast it into submission, but the light only made its edges sharper, more defined. I tried staying in complete darkness, but that was so much worse. I couldn't see it, but I could feel it. A cold presence tethered to me, writhing in the blackness. I felt like I was losing my mind, caught between a supernatural horror and the terrifying thought that this was all just a complete psychotic break. Section 3. Desperation drove me to the internet. My search history was a mess of frantic questions. Shadow moves on its own. My shadow has a will of its own. Can a shadow possess you? I fell down a rabbit hole of folklore and paranormal forums, and every story was more terrifying than the last. I read about the jinn, supernatural beings from Islamic tradition, made of smokeless fire, who can shapeshift and live in a world parallel to ours. Some people believe shadow people are actually jinn, intelligent beings with their own motives, sometimes curious, sometimes hostile. The legends say they were here before us, and they want their world back. Then I stumbled onto the Choctaw legends of Nalusa Cheeto, the great black soul eater. This being was said to creep into the minds of people filled with sadness or dark thoughts and literally devour their souls. My blood ran cold when I read that the Choctaw believe people have two shadows. The outside shadow, our physical form that can wander, and the inside shadow, which is the soul. Had my outside shadow just wandered off and been replaced by something else? Or had one dark thought, one moment of weakness, opened a door for something like Nalusa Cheeto to slip inside? Every myth felt like it was talking directly to me. In Slavic traditions, losing your shadow was the same as losing your soul or your life. In German folklore, seeing a doppelganger, a shadow-like double, was a direct omen of death. These weren't just campfire stories. They were warnings, passed down for generations, describing exactly what was happening to me. And they all mentioned the same unshakable feeling of paranoia and doom that now followed me everywhere. I started sleeping with the lights on, but it was a useless gesture. The sleep I managed was shallow and filled with nightmares, where I felt like a passenger in my own body, walking through decaying streets I didn't recognize. I'd wake up with a crushing weight on my chest, my body paralyzed, but my mind screaming. A classic sign of sleep paralysis, which is often linked to seeing shadow entities. But this wasn't just happening when I was asleep. This was my waking life. The line was blurring, and I was terrified of what would happen when it vanished for good. Subscribe if you want to know what happens next. Assuming I'm still the one here to tell the story. Your support helps more than you can possibly imagine. Section 4. The pulling started last week. At first, it was just a gentle tug, a faint desire to turn down a street I never take. I'd be walking to the store, and my body would try to veer left, towards some dark, narrow alley. I'd have to physically fight it, my muscles tensing as I battled an invisible current. It was a war inside my own skin, my will against its. Now, the battle has escalated. It doesn't just suggest anymore. It pulls. It yanks me toward places of decay and darkness. Yesterday, it tried to drag me into an abandoned industrial park on the edge of town, a graveyard of rusted metal and shattered windows. I fought back with everything I had, my feet dragging on the pavement, my knuckles white as I grabbed a chain link fence to hold myself in place. I must have looked insane, grunting and sweating, fighting an opponent no one else could see. The thing that's attached to me, this shadow parasite, it craves these places. It feeds on the neglect and the silence. It's an omen of death, and it wants to take me to where death lives. I can feel its intent like a cold, predatory hunger. It's not just moving on its own anymore. It's leading me. It has a destination in mind. Tonight, the pulling is stronger than I've ever felt. As I'm writing this, I can feel it tugging my arm toward the door. It wants to go out. The sun is down, and the world is wrapped in the darkness it loves so much. I'm holding on, my arm shaking with the effort. I look at my hand on the keyboard, and on the wall behind my laptop, the shadow of my hand is splayed open, its fingers beckoning me into the hallway. This is it, the final struggle. It isn't satisfied with small rebellions anymore. It wants to take me somewhere. I don't know where, but I have this suffocating certainty that if I let it win, I'm not coming back. Not the real me, anyway. It feels like a possession, but not of my soul. It's a possession of my physical anchor to this world, my own dark reflection turned puppeteer. Conclusion: I don't know how much longer I can keep fighting. The exhaustion is overwhelming, a constant strain on my body and my mind. My body is a battlefield, and I'm losing ground. Every time I get distracted, every moment my concentration slips, it gains more control. The most terrifying part, though, it's the quiet moments in between, when the pulling stops and my shadow lies still, perfectly mimicking my own exhaustion. In those moments, a horrifying thought creeps in. What if it wins? What happens when I'm just too tired to fight anymore? Will I just get up, walk out that door, and let it lead me into the night? Will I become just another ghost story whispered about on the internet? My name is Leo, and I'm terrified. I'm scared of the dark. I'm scared of the light. I'm scared of my own reflection. I look at my hands and I wonder how much longer they're going to be mine. It doesn't follow me anymore. It leads me. And I have no idea where we are going. What would you do? If your own shadow turned on you, how would you fight back? Let me know in the comments. I need to know I'm not the only one.